In the cage, Angela Lee is an absolute machine. There's nothing Angela Lee can't do.
Angela Lee adapts to every single opponent.
Angela Lee, she's gonna pull out all the stuff, throw caution to the wind. This is punishment, this is power.
She looks like Mulan, but she hits like Ronda Rousey. Angela Lee. She looks like Mulan, but she hits hard like Ronda Rousey.
The world title fight to my title defenses, every single fight. And I think that's just because I have such a high expectation of myself and how I think that I should perform.
19-year-old girl who got knocked to the canvas in a world title fight. Got back up, won by unanimous decision. Sobbed their eyes out when they put the belt around her waist. Then spent the next 7 years making sure nobody ever came close to taking it. These are fights that'll show you exactly why they call her unstoppable. Welcome to Punch Club, fellas. Here we go. Born into it. Angela Sungju Lee was born on July 8, 1996 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, just a normal neighborhood. Her father, Ken Lee, is Chinese-Singaporean, 6th degree Habdo Suo Master Black Belt. Black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Pankration in Taekwondo, gym owner, head coach of the Canadian Sport Jiu-Jitsu Association, president of the Canadian Pankration Federation. The man didn't just teach fighting, he manufactured champions for a living. Her mother, Jewel Lee, South Korean-born Canadian, 2-time Canadian national silver medalist, black belt in Taekwondo, black belt in Hapdo Seoul, 2 world-class martial artists, 1 household, 4 children. Angela was the oldest. She began competing at 6 years old. At 6, while other kids were arguing over the remote, Angela Lee was on the mat drilling submissions with her father before school. Ken Lee didn't just teach her how to fight. He taught her how to think. Patience, angles, the cold, unhurried calm that makes opponents feel like they're being taken apart by someone who already knows exactly where this is going. Within a few years, she was collecting titles like Loose Change, 2-time world pankration champion, a grappling game already years ahead of her age. But titles in the gym means absolutely nothing until someone is standing across a cage from you trying to take everything you built. Angela Lee was about to find out exactly what that felt like. Fight 1. Aya Saber, May 22, 2015. 1. Warrior's Quest professional debut. In May 2015, Angela Lee, 18 years old who never fought professionally, walks into a cage in Singapore against Aya Saber, an Egyptian national kickboxing champion, older and more experienced, a trained striker with genuine venom in her hands who had every reason on paper to believe this teenager had no business being in the same cage as her. Here's what Saber didn't know. Angela Lee had been preparing for exactly this moment since she was 6 years old. She hadn't entered this cage to find out if she belonged. She already knew the answer. The question was how long it would take for everyone else to catch up. Lee stood up and looked around that cage the way you look around a room you've been sitting in your whole life. After the fight, she dropped out of college, packed her bags, moved to Singapore to train full-time with the Evolve Fight Team, one of the most elite martial art organizations on the planet. The world didn't know her name yet. It was about to learn it. Fight 2. Mei Yamaguchi, May 6, 2016. 1. Ascent to power. 1 year in, 5 fights, still unbeaten. 1 championship put the inaugural women's atomweight world title on the line. And they didn't give Angela Lee an easy first dance. This time her opponent was Mei Yamaguchi, a battle-hardened veteran with over 20 professional fights under her belt, a woman who had been in wars that Angela at 19 years old could barely imagine. The kind of fighter who had seen every trick, survived every storm, and came back more dangerous on the other side of each one. Most people expected experience to win. For 2 rounds, it looked like they were right. The fight was a war, submission attempts from both sides, sharp exchanges on the feet, back and forth scrambles that had the crowd completely on the edge. Neither woman could put the other away. Then round 3 arrived and everything nearly fell apart. Final 2 rounds, she didn't just survive, she took over. She became the aggressor. She was the one controlling the pace. The unanimous decision, the new one-woman's atomweight world champion, the youngest MMA world champion in history, male or female, at any level ever. When they read the scorecards, she broke down completely, tears pouring. She grabbed the microphone with shaking hands. "I told you guys, I was born for this."
I'm here. I'm so grateful for everything you do. Second, I would like to thank all my amazing family, my teams, United MMA.
Absolutely no idea what life was about to put her through before she got to defend it. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 99% of you watch the video without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but makes a huge difference to us. Thanks a lot, muchly appreciated. Now, back to the video. Fight 3. Jenny Huang, March 11, 2017, 1 Warrior Kingdom, Bangkok. Here's what separates a good fighter from a great champion. Anyone can win the belt on the right night. What tells you who you're actually dealing with is what happens when they have to stand in front of the whole world and defend it. When the opponent has studied every one of your fights, when the game plan has been built from the ground up specifically to dismantle you, that's the real test. Jenny Huang arrived in Bangkok unbeaten and genuinely dangerous, a submission specialist from Taiwan with a go-go plot in her arsenal. A weapon so rare that most professional fighters have never seen it landed in live competition even once. She wasn't just a grappling threat. She was the kind of grappling threat that changes how you prepare for a fight entirely. By the 3rd round, the story was already written. Lee pressed Huang against the fence, worked for the takedown, took her back cleanly. Pressure fighter in a world title fight against a specialist who had prepared specifically for Angela Lee. The grappler. She was the champion. She was still evolving. The division had a problem. And somewhere outside the cage, behind the celebration of the belt, a storm was gathering that had nothing to do with fighting. Fight 4. Zhang Jinan 2. October 13, 2019. 1. Century Part 1, Tokyo. Between the Jenny Huang fight and this one, 2 years passed. 2 years that had nothing to do with competition. In November 2017, just months after defending her title, Angela Lee was involved in a serious car accident in Hawaii. She later revealed publicly that the crash was not an accident. It was a suicide attempt. She carried that privately for years, still showing up, still competing, still holding the belt, while almost nobody outside her circle knew what she had been through. Angela carried that. Then, 7 months before this fight, she moved up a weight class to challenge Zhang Jinan for the 1 strawweight title. She lost, 5th round TKO, the first professional defeat of her life. And it wasn't a close loss or a controversial decision. It was a stoppage, the kind that stays with you. Now, Zhang was coming down to atomweight, to Angela's division, to Angela's house, coming for the one thing Angela had sacrificed everything to build. And she came with bad intentions from the very first bell. Round 1, Zhang cracked her clean. Angela dropped the one knee. The Tokyo crowd fell silent for a moment that felt much longer than it actually was.
Oozing out of Zhang Jinan all week in the entire build-up to this matchup here. Angela's gonna have to change things up, and that's what I like. I like how she's pressuring Zhang Jinan.
Round 4, a massive left hand sent her back to the canvas again, twice down, against the hardest puncher in the division, in her own house, carrying a loss and 2 years of everything that came before this fight. sitting somewhere in her chest. At this point, every fighter in the world starts doing the math, starts asking the questions, starts wondering if tonight is the night the story ends. Angela Lee kept walking forward. She kept working, round after round. She fought Zhang on the feet. She wrestled when she needed to. She survived every dangerous moment and turned each one into another round on the scorecards. 5 rounds ran out. The clock in the final round wound down towards 0. 12 seconds left on the board. With 12 seconds remaining, Lee shot in, slammed Zhang to the canvas. She stayed completely glued to her back, worked her way to the rear naked choke position with the patience of everything she had been carrying for 2 years. The accident, the loss, the doubt, every single thing she had held together in the spaces between training sessions poured out of her at once. She grabbed the microphone, voice completely gone, and said something completely touching. It feels like a dream. It wasn't a dream. It was a woman who had been through things that had nothing to do with fighting and brought every single one of them into the cage with her. And then life changed everything. For the first time since becoming champion, Angela Lee stepped away from the cage. Fight 5, Stamp Fairtex, March 26, 2022, 1X, Singapore. After 2.5 years away from the cage, she had her daughter. She lived an entirely different chapter of her life. And then she came back to defend the belt she had been holding for years against a challenger who had spent every single day of those 2.5 years getting sharper, more dangerous, and more convinced that the woman coming back was not the same woman who left. Stamp Fairtex hadn't been sitting around waiting. She tore through 3 opponents to win the One Women's Atomweight Grand Prix. 3 fights, 3 performances that announced her as the most dangerous challenger the division had ever produced. She arrived at 1X fresh, sharp, and carrying a very reasonable argument. Time away changes fighters. The timing goes, the edge dulls, the body forgets things, the mind still remembers. Nobody in Singapore that night could say with any certainty that Angela Lee still had everything she'd had before. Then Stamp fired a left hook to the liver in round 1 and Angela Lee buckled. She doubled over in immediate, visible agony, grabbing Stamp's leg just to stay upright, buying her body a few precious seconds to remember what functioning felt like.
Angela pouring with the lead hand. Stamp jab. Angela jab.
Stamp sensed exactly what she was looking at. She swarmed, body shots, headshots, heavy combinations, raining down with the aggression of a challenger who knew the moment had arrived.
Here it comes! No! Angela survived! But she's hurt! The body's hurt!
The referee moved closer. The crowd went completely silent. Angela said afterward that she was scared and didn't want the referee to stop the fight. The referee didn't stop it. She survived the round, clinching and absorbing, getting her body back under her.
That fight was all but over. She was hurt to the ground. For the Atomweight Championship of the world, and Angela dances out of her corner.
When the bell rang for the end of the round, she walked back to her corner and sat down, looking like a woman who had just figured something out. Round 2 was a completely different fight. Angela shot for the takedown, dragged Stamp to the mat, and went to work with a cold, methodical precision of someone who had been doing BJJ since before Stamp was a professional fighter.
Look at her trying to push the leg off. Look at her going to the quarter, German stance. The heart. The bridge.
She attacked with an armbar, transitioned to a triangle, attempted the twister. She moved through her entire submission arsenal calmly and unhurried. One attempt feeding directly into the next, each one forcing Stamp to burn energy defending, until finally she flattened Stamp completely, locked in the rear naked choke and squeezed. Stamp tapped at round 2. Her daughter Ava was brought into the cage. Angela held her, belt in one arm, 1-year-old in the other, the first mom champ in one champion history. Jingnang dropped Angela twice and still tapped. Stamp Fairtex nearly finished her and left empty-handed. None of them lacked skill or preparation. They lost because they misunderstood who stood across the cage. Angela Lee retired at 27, undefeated at atomweight. They called her unstoppable. Turns out it wasn't a nickname, it was a warning. If you want to know more stories about other fighters on our channel, you've gotta check this video. This is Punch Club, fellas. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.